you.
Hey, howdy, hey, welcome to the new normal where we break down big church for our everyday lives. Through this, we're going to break down the service, the scripture, some spiritual practices to give you the tips and tricks that you need on how to live this out in your everyday life. My name is Kaitlyn McCollum, and I am the communications intern here at AMUMC, and my two co-hosts are...
Howdy, I'm Abby, and I'm one of the college fall interns here at AMUMC.
Howdy, I'm Bradley. I'm another fall college intern here at AMUMC.
Awesome. So our icebreaker for today, who is stolen from the infamous Michael Vaughn, is what is a food that you don't like that everyone else does like?
All right. I'm so mad that I don't like pickles. Everybody loves pickles, and I want to so bad. Like in a ballpark, when you're just munching on one or on a Chick-fil-A sandwich, don't like them. I only like them deep fried and dipped in ranch, especially from like wings and more. But
I think at that point you can't even taste the pickles.
Exactly. It's batter and ranch with like a slight tang, and I'm totally fine with it.
That counts as pickles then.
But that's the only way I like them, so.
I don't like tomatoes. It's not for lack of effort either. Like, I've tried them so many times because I want to like them because I know that they should be good, but there's something about it. I can't do it.
Is it like consistency or
yeah,
just the
I think
texture?
it's the texture and also just the flavor. Like, I don't really like the flavor of like a raw tomato. I really like tomato products like ketchup and marinara sauce and all that salsa. I don't know, but I don't like just regular tomatoes.
Okay. Well, mine's like a food. It's beef stroganoff. I can't really explain it. It's just like the one food I don't like. So
I honestly don't know if I've ever had beef stroganoff. Like, I can't.
Love beef stroganoff.
It's like partway between stew and pasta, and I think that's where the disconnect is. It's just like combining the two just doesn't sit well with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not for everyone.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, well, to get us started, I'm going to read the scripture from this week, which is from 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 4 through 11. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze, weighing 5,000 shekels. On his legs he wore bronze greaves, and a bronze javelin was slung on his back. His spear shaft was like a weaver's rod, and its iron point weighed 600 shekels. His shield bearer went ahead of him. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to kill me. If he is able to fight and kill me, he will become your subjects. We will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. So, how do y'all feel about that one?
Not gonna lie, at first, I was kind of cracking up because this just feels like so intense. Like, bring someone down and we're just gonna fight to the death, and like whoever wins is just gonna be like top dog. Seems like what you'd see in like a cheesy movie, but like it actually happened, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like Goliath is kind of like the jock or the Chad of the Philistine army. He's just coming out like puffing his chest and saying like, "I'm the biggest, I'm the baddest, so like come at me." And really just the wording of Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. I think that just kind of like sets the tone for David to come in and say like, why are we freaking out over this one guy? We have God behind us. And so I think this part of the story just really sets up how big Goliath is to the Israelites.
For some reason, I've always for all you Harry Potter nerds, I've always pictured Goliath to look like Hagrid. So that's just like the image that I have in my brain. And then I imagine like little David coming out and just being like, really funny. But I would also be terrified if that was me, so.
One thing I didn't realize, because I feel like I've only heard David and Goliath in like the sense of I saw it in like a children's VBS, like maybe Veggie Tales thing. So I always pictured that like Goliath just came in one day and was this huge thing, and then David just got some random strength and just knocked him out. But he was there for 40 days. And I had no idea that he reigned that long, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It also
So
makes,
yeah. Oh, you go, Abby.
no, I was just gonna say like like they were terrified at the end makes me think of like all the things in my life that I'm like scared of that like don't seem near as like big and bad as Goliath. And so I don't know, I would be terrified.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's definitely a perspective giver. Just like, here's this big bad thing that's right in front of them. But I think David comes in a couple scriptures later and he's like, really just talking some mad mess about Goliath. He's saying like, this is just one guy. What are we doing here? Like, we've got God behind us. Like, and he's defying God and all of Israel. Like, there's something here that like we can beat him. So
Classic underdog story, you know?
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so going into the sermon and how we like tied this in, what I loved, my favorite part about the sermon was how Preston kind of put David and Goliath and Zoom in the same context, which was kind of a brilliant idea if you ask me, because it was a fun way to look at it. And if you missed the sermon, he was talking about how when you're on Zoom, you've got a million different things going on. So first you've got the people you're looking at on the little like boxes. And then you've got what he didn't realize was you have like a chat box on the side. And so if you're leading a Zoom, it's so hard to like watch what everyone's doing and how they're interacting with what you're saying, and the chat box. And then you've also got like your phone screen of like the private message chat that's going on right now that you don't know about or something like that. So there's all these different screens taking up your attention. And he's talking about how Goliath was like the screen and how Goliath was like taking up everyone's attention, and all they could see was Goliath when he showed up. But what some of them didn't realize was that like God was doing amazing and miraculous work like in the chat box. And while Goliath was still there and loud and proud, like God was filling the chat box and like preparing a way for like his grace to win. And I just think that is so, I just loved that like that imagery of it and that metaphor.
Yeah, really awesome. Was there anything that like stood out to you in particular about the service as a whole?
So I loved seeing Ecclesia so full of people. And I like, it's really cool as interns, we get to like sit in the back and like watch the service go by. And I think it's like a cool seat to sit in because the back of the room was filled with kids, which hasn't happened in forever. And they were all twirling and dancing to the music. And there were so many in the room. And I just haven't seen that much like joy in life in one room, like in person in forever. And that just like, that was it for me that Sunday. Like that made my whole day.
I think something that stuck out to me was, since it was Bible Sunday, getting to see all the Bibles up at the front on the altar, but also just being reminded of like whenever I received my first Bible, it was just kind of like a cool connection of like, this is where these kids at the church can take a new step in their faith and like get to read the Word of God in a new light. Preston said, yeah, replace some of those pictures with some words and they can start reading the stories a little bit more. So that was pretty cool to see.
Y'all still have your third grade Bibles?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think I lost mine, but that's okay.
Happens. Yeah, I really loved that we had like almost a full choir, which we haven't seen since March. And we had our first choir practice this week, and it was just really awesome to like watch all of that come back to life. It's a part of church that I've really missed. So yeah.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah,
and then
that's awesome.
Jung Jin's last song, I loved it. I just really love everything Jung Jin does. Her last song was really great.
Okay, so as we go into our everyday lives, I was trying to think of something that we could take from this sermon and put it into a spiritual practice. And really what I was thinking about was that perspective that we were talking about and what Preston was talking about, that, you know, we have these big things right in front of us, but we've got God right there beside us, working behind us, working in this behind the scenes. And that really just called to me like reflection. And the best way that I've been able to reflect on like my life, see where God has been working, is through contemplative prayer and a psalter. A psalter is just a daily reading of the Psalms, so kind of fitting that we're talking about David. But just reading a couple Psalms and seeing the thankfulness, the joy, and just the reliance that David had on God is a really good reminder, and gives you perspective to where we are in our lives. It doesn't matter what step we're taking, because God is right there with us, taking it with us. So yeah, if that's something that you want to try out, it's been helpful in my prayer life, especially just being able to pray and be reminded of my own thankfulness for all that God has done for me. So going a little bit further now, a couple of questions that we came up with to maybe ponder this week. How do we not get consumed by our own challenges? Again, kind of going back to that perspective thing. Goliath was big. I think the author of First Samuel really put a lot of thought into making Goliath seem like this massive big character, because he dismayed and terrified the Israelites. He was defying God. So what in our life can sometimes be that overwhelming, and how do we not be overcome by that? And then the next one is kind of inspired by Preston's daughter saying, "I don't know, you tell me the answer." Where do we say to God that we don't know the answer and that we need to rely on Him? Where do we turn and not try to rely on our own strength, our own prospects, or whatever it is, whatever it may be? Where do we turn to God in reliance?
I really love that question, because I feel like that's so hard, and a lot of times I just want an answer, and I just want someone to tell me what it is, or I can just figure it out. I can research, and I can read, and I can pray, and I can figure it out. But sometimes you can't, and you just have to literally tell God, like, I'm done. Like, I just need you to help now. I just really love that question.
Yeah, for sure. You have to really like be willing to relinquish that control and just let God do what He does in your life, and not try to make it what it's not.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm so glad you guys could join us this week for the new normal, especially with the intern edition. If you have any more questions, go back and watch the sermon, or like put some comments in there and we'll reply back. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.